will strike down with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers, and you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee. So yes, it's true, my delivery, if I could be more laid back, I'd be horizontal. But nevertheless, let us start. So it's 2024, and open world fatigue has massively set in now. Massively set in. And when I look at AAA gaming space, it's not getting any better. So let's get into this. This year's been pretty decent for AAA games, right? I had the Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth in January, FF7 Rebirth in February, and then Dragon's Dogma 2 and Rise of the Ronin on the same day. And Stellar Blade's coming out in April, and that's likely to be another time sink. So, but yeah, each of those games, well, I've played 3 out of the 4. I've not played Dragon's Dogma 2 because I'll play it when it's got a decent frame rate on the PS5 or the Series X, for all you fanboys worried about if I'm one or the other. And I do have PC as well, but I can't be arsed with PCs, too many updates. Sorry, Master Race. So, Infinite Wealth was really good. I'm a massive Yakuza fan. Huge Yakuza fan. Played every single game. And I like the switch up to the RPG turn-based battles in the Like a Dragon games. But god damn, that game was so long. All my days, that game was so long. So by the end, I was just happy to get out of that game. Kiryu's still alive somehow, because God knows how we survived that game, but he's still there. And then FF7 Rebirth, absolutely phenomenal. I was a huge fan of the original. I'm a big Final Fantasy fan, and for the first, 60 hours of that game was so good. The writing, the character work, the gameplay was so good. The gameplay loop in the open world was really good. But then, the fatigue set in, and when you get to the next biome and you realise you're just doing the same things over and over again. So you leave the game. Okay, I'm just going to try and finish the campaign, but by that point I'm already pissed off that I've sank so many hours into this game. Plus I need to level up my characters to get through the game. So I'm just kind of on autopilot, fighting through, going through the gold source. I'm really just tired at this point. And then all the stuff with Kate Sif just does my head in. Which is a shame, because like the stuff earlier with Barrett was amazing. His backstory was really cool. So carry on trudging through the game, and ultimately I ended up spending 90 odd hours in that game, and by the end I was just fed up, and that game went from a solid 9 out of 10. I mean, so good. There were just little gameplay niggles and little design choices throughout that game that stopped it being a 10. But then ultimately I come out of that game thinking, I'm not fed up by the end. As much as I appreciate the early 2/3 of that game, I can't be bothered going through the final game in that trilogy. Cannot be bothered. I probably will when it rolls around, but why does that game need to be as big as it is? And I know you can say you don't have to play everything, but when you start a game, that's what you want to do. You want to experience everything, but then they just waste your time. And then and I ended up picking Rise of the Ronin over Dragon's Dogma 2. The reason being is because I loved Warlong Fallen Dynasty, the previous game by Team Ninja. I thought it was fantastic. And I played it on Game Pass, 1000G'd it, absolutely adored that game. So good. One of those underrated games, but I don't know, it's probably got like a 80 on Metacritic, which is about right. And again, Rise of Ronin, really enjoying it. That first map, I kind of knew what it was. I was enjoying the game. The story just pointless, but just enjoying it. I knew what it was. It was an Assassin's Creed rip-off. I was enjoying it. The gameplay was decent. But then you get to the second map, and then you realise you're doing it all over again. And not only that, then to get through the campaign is just a slog. Absolute slog. So again, on that game, I'm just burnt out by the end. I'm fed up, and I'm like, I'm just wasting my time with these games. They're too goddamn long. And don't get me wrong, a game could be 5 hours long to beat, and it could overstay its welcome. Whereas a game could veer over 200 hours and leave you wanting more. The very, very rare case, but they do exist out there. Like games like The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, I put 150 odd hours into that game on a single playthrough plus the expansions, and phenomenal game, all time great. But even that, I think I took like a month off halfway through that game, probably to play something else, and I went back to it. So yeah, it's not strictly the time you put into it, but it's what you're doing with that time. And as a dev, I've got to ask the question, you're asking people to sink in, even at the base rate, probably like 40 to 50 hours to complete your game, which the likelihood is you're going to do more. So then you're talking upwards like 60, 70, 80 hours. And like FF7, like I left so much of that game out by the end. And I still did 90 odd hours into that game. And like, the game's got to be so damn good to keep your attention for that. There's very few. It's like Elden Ring, definitely. Amazing game. The combat, the gameplay loop's so good. And they justify its length because that's a game where it's up to you to search what you want to do in that game. And I wanted to do everything in that game. Loved it. I definitely clocked over 100 hours in that. I've done 2 playthroughs of that actually, a year apart. Amazing. So essentially what I'm talking about here is the AAA gaming space. And I just think there's a massive issue at the moment, especially when you look at all the layoffs going on in the industry. And the amount of time it's taking for these games to come out, which again is a financial issue for the studios. So I just got some examples for you. And Naughty Dog, my guys, amazing studio, regardless of what some people say. And I remember, and a lot of this, what I'm talking about with this gen is going back to the Gen 7, the PS3 360, Nintendo Wii, if you're into that kind of thing. No judgment. Super Mario Galaxy was amazing, to be fair. But that gen, Naughty Dog, 2007 released Uncharted 1, new IP. And it would have took them, I don't know, 3 years possibly from the prior game for that to come out, maybe 2 years. Amy Hennig, fantastic. Start off that, and I really enjoyed it, really good. And then 2 years later, Uncharted 2, bona fide classic. And again, Uncharted 1, to get through it's probably 8 hours. Uncharted 2, I don't know, 10 to 11 hours, something like that. Pacing was phenomenal in that game. Played these games multiple times. Then Uncharted 3, not as good as 2. I know some people think it is, but I don't. Another 10-hour game. And then The Last of Us, Part 1. 13-hour game, possibly some more hours, but that was when they started going into a more wide linear level design. And I'm going to get into linear level design because I think it's got a bad rap, and I think wide linear is also very, very underutilized in the industry at the moment. And all this is referring to the AAA space. I know there's indie games out there, AA games. I played Pacific Drive this year, enjoyed it, deeply flawed, but if you stick with it, there's a decent game there. And that probably, I don't know, probably put over 20 hours into that game. But again, if it justifies it and then you're enjoying it all the way to the end, it doesn't matter. A game could be 500 hours. People will play multiplayer for thousands of hours. If you're enjoying it, you're enjoying it. But then yeah, Naughty Dog after Last of Us Part 1, Last of Us Part 2, and I will have a video on this at some point. But basically they were given carte blanche to do whatever they wanted, and they decided we're going to make 2 games in one with The Last of Us Part 2. And I forget my opinions on the game, but recently I played through Last of Us Part 1 again on the PS5. Still fucking amazing game. Absolutely phenomenal game. Pacing's so good in that game. Just as long as it needs to be. And one of the best games I've ever played still to this day. But Part 2, I replayed that straight after and I didn't finish it. I might as well say I'm not one of these people who hates that game. I do understand what the devs are going for. I know they stand by that game, and I do think there's a lot of merit to that game. There's a lot of discussion to be had about that game. I can understand why people detest it. I probably do fall in the line that I understand a lot of the character motivations, although there is an issue definitely to start up. I'm getting off track anyway. That game does not need to be as long as it is, and it kills the pacing of that game. And I dare anyone to go back and replay it. I mean, maybe people are happy playing through that game for fucking 25 hours plus, maybe a bit less. But the issue, and now as we stand now, Last of Us Part 2 came out 2020, pretty much almost exactly 4 years, and we're about 3.5 years into the new gen PS5. Naughty Dog hasn't released a new game. I'm not counting remakes or remasters or whatever, because the time involved in them is not good. There's nothing. But now, 3.5 years in, 4 years away from the last game, no new game in sight. I mean, I expect to reveal this year, possibly very soon. But they're at risk of missing a generation, which is criminal. And they've also had layoffs there, and this is a massive shooting in the foot for them, in their own foot, because the amount of time it took to get The Last of Us Part 2 out took ages. Oh, another game as well, Uncharted 4. Again, really enjoyed it. That game started veering up to, I think, like 15 hours, which is fine, but even that game, I did think, is it a little bit too stretched out now? Because one of the amazing things with like Uncharted 2 and The Last of Us Part 1, both under Neil Druckmann's direction, along with Bruce Straley, the Forgotten Man, for reasons which just Google. But like the pacing was so good in those games, and when you started veering for just a wide linear, very heavily narrative driven game into the 20 odd hour mark, you're running into an issue there. So that's just one example. But when you go back to the PS3 360 era and you think of games, and it seems like now looking back, so many people I talk to say like, where's all the games this gen? Like we used to have loads of games coming out back on the 360, back on the PS3. There was loads of games coming out, and back on the PS4, geez. Xbox One though, because again another video's coming, and that's going to revolve you, Mr. Spencer, because I'm blaming you for that. But yeah, go back to that Gen 7 games like you had the Uncharted trilogy, Resistance trilogy, Killzone 2 and 3. Sony, where's Killzone gone now? You need an FPS on your slate and you don't have one. Gears of War, all my days, brilliant. Halo games, I think we had Halo 3, Halo Reach, ODST, and then games like Dead Space, Bioshock, all my days, Bioshock 1, 2, Infinite, Dead Space, and all these games that I'm listing off here, they're probably no more than 15 hours to complete, 8 hours to, maybe Dead Space, slightly longer. I've replayed the game, the remake last year, which was phenomenal, but nobody bought. Thanks guys, because we're not getting any more of those now. But yeah, and ultimately this comes down to, the reason I'm listing off this is, if you're making a game that takes twice as long to complete, it's likely taking twice as long to make that game for the devs. And we were getting games from studios every 2 years, 3 years at a push. You did have some outliers like Bioshock Infinite from Irrational, which took, I don't know how long it took that, 7 years I think it was. No, 6 years I think it was. But there was hell of issues with that game. But it does happen to understand game development's very difficult, it's not simple. But when you have, it seemed like a very clear plan. I know like the technology's evolved and you can do bigger worlds now, and look what we can do now. But I think there's going to be a big shift in the industry going forward, and I'm pretty concerned for PlayStation Studios at the moment, because when I look at the slate coming up for those games, Naughty Dog's games, God knows when that's coming. Sony Bend, the last game was a massive open world game. The new one is live service, but I think they have said they're going to take a lot of things they learnt from Days Gone. Underrated gem as well. Should have made a sequel to it. Massive missed opportunity there by Sony. So yeah, that's going to be probably open world, or at least, a huge game. Ghost of Tsushima 2, first one was brilliant. That's going to be a massive open world game. Horizon 3, that's going to be a huge open world game. Death Stranding 2, huge open world game. And you see the issue we're running into here. Spider-Man 3 as well, big open world game. Although thankfully they made that game short enough to complete within about, 20-25 hours, which I appreciate. So the issue is, these games are taking years and years to come out, and in between then there's not enough coming out, in the AAA space. It's just open world games. Every single game is an open world game. Massive time sink. Starfield last year, cannot be bothered playing that game. Played the opening few hours, pretty damn poor, to be honest. If you enjoy that, fine. I've loved BGS games in the past. Skyrim was amazing back in the day. Sunk 200 plus hours into that game. Loved it. Fallout 3, sunk a lot of hours into that, although New Vegas was better. Sorry. Fallout 4 was terrible. Dated. And 76, not for me. But Starfield, just another. And that was one where I just knew it's going to be a massive time sink. The gameplay is not that great. It's going to be a huge game. Cannot be bothered playing through it. Never will play through it because fuck that. Give me a Mass Effect or give me Exodus. Anyone's not heard of Exodus, look into it. It's from the writer of the first two Mass Effects, Drew Karpyshyn, and former BioWare devs. Definitely looking forward to that. And Matthew McConaughey. The McConaughey-essence continues. He's going to be in the game. And really looking forward to that. But again, Mass Effect games. 30-hour games. Mass Effect 1, 30, 35 hours. Same with 2. 3 maybe. 40 hours. More than enough. Epic game. Massive games, it felt like, in scope with the amount of characters and storyline. Not 100 hours. Not 120 hours. Where a third of that is just doing the same shit over and over again. But yeah, this gen, it's just a bit of a dud at the moment. Don't get me wrong. There are still some all-time great games coming out. Elden Ring 2022, phenomenal. Last year, my mind's gone blank, but some amazing games. Spider-Man 2 is a bit disappointing, to be honest. This year again, Game of the Year contender Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, and I suppose how I equate these games is, if you've ever been to an all-you-can-eat buffet and you're like me, where your eyes are bigger than your belly, and you're a greedy bastard, you go there, your first plate, say you go to a Chinese buffet, amazing, oh my god, look at it, oh, it's brilliant. But then you feel like you want to get your money's worth, and you know the food's on tap, so you go again, eat another plate, definitely full now, eating way too much already, but I'm going to go back again. By the end, when I leave that restaurant, I'm not satisfied with what I've eaten. I'm in agony because my belly's exploding, I'm sweating, I've just gained a load of calories which they're going to stick to me now, so I'm fatter, I'm miserable, and yeah, it's not good for me. And it's the same with these games. Bloated. These games are bloated beyond belief, and they don't need to be. And it's costed devs jobs now, because this is the thing now. Games are too expensive to make anymore. Well, of course they are. When you're just wasting my time as a consumer, as a player, leaving me with a bad taste in my mouth. And for you yourselves, you're just spending too long on these games when they don't need to be this long. You can still charge RRP for a AAA game as long as the quality's there, and you can auto that game into a 10-hour experience. I'm more than happy to spend 50, 60 quid, whatever it will be. I never pay full price because I'm not a moron. If you do a bit of shopping around and look for some discount codes, you can get your games cheaper. Come on, guys. But yeah, I would love to go back to the days of the PS3, 360. Games were 8 to 12 hours long, and they were coming out more regularly, rather than having one game come out every month, which is a massive fucking open world RPG. And also, who decided to release Rise of Ronin on the same day as Dragon's Dogma 2? And now you're adjusting your sales predictions, aren't you, Team Ninja? 5 million, unbelievable. Was never going to sell that many. Never deserved to. It's a AA game basically. Rise of the Ronin. But the dev were talking about how they learned so much and they're going to make another one. Not buying it, not playing it. Time's important. Time is so important to people, especially the older you get. And one of the biggest criticisms I'll hear about being a gamer and playing games is you're wasting your life. And unfortunately, these massive time sink games make me feel like I'm wasting my life. Where it gets to the point where I'm burnt out on a game, but because it's just in me to complete games and finish them, I'll then spend 10 hours not enjoying a game, not properly invested in the story anymore, as good as it was at the start, and again, just left with a bad taste in your mouth. I'll never go back and replay these games. Games like Bioshock I've played so many times because it's just perfect. You can't get better than that. And I just think it's a massive missed opportunity for these devs where they've just chased these huge expansive open worlds. But on the horizon is somewhere where is something which I hope is a bit of a shift in the industry, and I think it would be good for Xbox studios to do this, and it'd be better for them just from a business point of view, because they've been bleeding money. And I just think Hellblade 2, as much as I played the first one, played it, completed it, it was interesting somewhat. I don't know, I'd probably say it's a 7 out of 10 experience. You get some kudos for some of the mental health aspects of that game. I'm not massively excited for Hellblade 2, but the fact that it's only going to be a 9-hour experience and it's dropping on Game Pass, bit concerning how long it's taken for them to make this game, which kind of goes in the face of what I've been saying, but because I think this has taken best part of 4 years to make this game, maybe a bit less. Still not too bad, because they're not like a huge dev Ninja Theory, not like a Naughty Dog or a Bethesda. So I'm sure like the cost to make that game has been pretty reasonable. Like I think it probably has been like 4 years in development. But yeah, it's a 9-hour experience. I'm more than happy with that. I think Xbox need to do more of this, because Sony certainly aren't doing it at the moment. So Sony's slate is literally open world game after open world game, and then live service games. And all my days as Jim Ryan made a massive issue for that and that corporation, which they'll still get through, because they are still, in my opinion, light years ahead of Xbox. But I think there's an opportunity for Xbox for shorter 8 to 10 hour games, high production values, pump these games out from a sizable studio in 3 years. I think that's possible. I think that's plausible. I think there's an opportunity there. Let's just tone back these open world games, because I think only a few devs can get away with these. Your FromSofts, CD Projekts, Rockstar. These games should be in the minority, and they're not. They're in the majority at the moment, and it's insane to me that this has been happening. And also I think there's opportunity for AA, because there have been some AA games that do, carry some decent production values, but really, I think the AAA, we need to go back to these shorter experiences. It'll help the industry, it'll make it healthier, more profitable, and it'll make me feel less like I'm wasting my life on these games, because it's my favourite hobby. Really enjoy gaming. I think it's a brilliant art form. And yeah, that's all I've got to say. So, a bit of a ramble. Still working on the format for these. But if you enjoyed, like, subscribe. and expect the next one, because there will be one, and I'll try to get these out on the regular, but they will come out, as a lot of game devs say, it will be ready when it's ready. So yeah, adios.